Hello everyone, I am Emmanuel Penzes and today I will present you how to develop a seamless user experience for multiple device family. What does it mean? It just means that you have one team of developers with the same competencies and you want to deploy your applications on multiple devices. What does it mean? What does it mean when you want to deploy an application cross-platforms? That means that you want to deploy, for example, an application on your desktop. As you have developing your applications, you have started to deploy your application on your desktop and developing it, and now you want to extend the device families and be able, for example, to deploy it on devices like mobile or embedded platform, on your mobile phone, on tablet, on all of those platforms that we are seeing today. And when you want to deploy on all of those different platforms, you need to consider multiple things. First, in terms of platform itself, there is the operating systems, and the operating system is the key because there is multiple operating systems. To be able to support Qt, they have one requirement, that it needs to support POSIX. Also, all those operating systems comes with a compiler, and those compilers need to support C++11. So if you have these combinations of C++11 and POSIX for your platform, you are able to deploy Qt on those ones. Hopefully, for most of the main operating systems, Qt came with some kits. What are those kits? It's because all you know that Qt comes with Qt Creator, our IDE, and you can easily, normally set up all the environment to be able to develop, deploy, and debug directly your applications on those platforms. Because, for example, if you want to deploy your applications from a Windows PC to an Android, you need first to compile your applications with a cross compilations to be able to compile it to be run it on an Android and deploy afterwards on the device. This is done by all the Qt kits. So in the Qt documentations, and we will see now how we can set up and deploy to a kit with Qt Creator. Let's go to Qt Creator now. Now we are on Qt Creator. So we can go now to Tools, Options, and we can see all the kit or all the platform where we can deploy our applications. So you can see here that I have some Android kits, some Raspberry Pi ones that I will come back on it later, some desktop one for my Microsoft PC. So here I have set up for MSVC and MinGW. The advantage of MinGW is that you can install it with our online installer. And I have also another one for WebAssembly if you want to deploy your application on WebAssembly. I will concentrate now on two of them. So on the PC, so as I said, if you want to install it for MinGW, that is the easiest one because we provide with our installer directly the compiler. So the kits will be configured by default. If you want to use MSVC, you need to install the Microsoft ones. If you are on Linux, it's also automatic with GCC. It's installing also GCC. And on Mac, you can also, I think you need to download actually the compiler. For Android, we provide something inside the environment. Now inside the devices actually. We provide Android and we provide the Android tabs, and inside these Android tabs you can set up quite easily the whole environment because you need a JDK versions of this. So you have already a link here where you can deploy the applications. You can get the JDK versions. You have also every link to get the SDK, OpenSSL settings, and also you need the NDK. So here it's quite easy to set up all your Android environments. That's the advantages of Qt. So when you have done that, you need also to define in Android Studio, for example, if you want to deploy on simulated applications, your applications directly to see it on a virtual tablet. So you need also to go on the AVD manager. So now we will open our applications that we will use today to just show you how we can easily deploy it on those platforms. Okay, so now I open my new applications. I will select where I want to deploy it. So from now we will say, okay, deploy it on desktop, deploy it on Android, for example. So we configure the project. Here I have my applications. I will run it on PC just to show you how it works. And it will be my application for the rest of the webinar, and we will work on top of it. So this is my application, and as you can see, it's a real simple application with a top title, a header and a footer, and there is an image, and there is a kind of nice slider that I can manage to manage different things about my image. The thing that you can see also is my application does not rescale at all, okay? It's on fixed size. This will be our next step. And now, if I want to change and I want to deploy it on Android, I will be able to say, okay, Android, click on, for example, debug. So now it's compiling the application, it starts to generate the QMake and everything like this. Now I have set up multiple platforms available for Android. And as you can see, here we have our one tablet, for example, that I have already presets. So my tablet is now launching, it's deploying the applications. Now my application is deployed. You can see that I have now my application on an Android tablet. And with 3 clicks, I have just deployed it, recompile it, and use it. And as you can see, unfortunately, my application doesn't fit my screens because I have defined it for one screen size. So our next step is to check how we can resize it. So I have deployed my applications for Android and desktop. But first of all, to deploy for these two different platforms, we need to choose between two Qt technologies. Qt Quick with QML or Qt Widgets. The thing is, for which platform Qt Quick and Qt Widgets are the best. If you take those, and if you take Qt for the 25 years ago, you may think that we all know actually that all of our applications 25 years ago were for, when we talk about user interface, it was a PC with a keyboard and a mouse. And it was the aim and the beginnings of Qt and Qt Widgets. That's why we developed this technology 25 years ago. Since the last 10 years, new kind of UI has emerged with touchscreens on smartphone and embedded platform. That's why we developed Qt Quick and QML with a new way also of developing user interface with Qt. That's why when you need to decide between Qt Quick and Qt Widgets, you need to know on which platform you want to deploy it. If typically it's a desktop-only applications, you can either choose Qt Widgets or Qt Quick. I will say that on most of the case, Qt Widgets will fit your requirements, especially if it's a desktop application with keyboard and mouse. For all other purposes, if you want more a smartphone-like UI, you may consider to use Qt Quick and QML. So we consider that Qt Quick and QML is better if you really need a cross-platform applications for desktop, mobile and embedded platforms. I can understand from a lot of people that are listening that knows really well Qt Widget and use it. We can use it on other platforms, but you will get some easier way for all the beginners and for most of the peoples, and better performances also because Qt Quick uses the GPU acceleration to do the rendering, so you will have some better animation, easier to do animations, and easier also to develop the UI. So my choice was to consider Qt Quick. So today my application is done with Qt Quick and QML. The next step now, what I promised to you, is we need to consider how we can create an applications for multiple screen size actually. And this is the aim of our things now, because you see that a tablet has a higher DPI, higher resolution, smaller screens. We have the PC with large screens, large resolutions and things like this. We can have landscape screens, portrait screens. So we'll see how we can have with one QML something that's resized. To do that in Qt and QML, we have different layout management and different way of defining your UI. When you are defining your UI basically with our designer, it will per default design it with a XY position and a width and a height. This is not the way to go when you want to develop a multiple screen-sized applications. So that's why you need to use the layout management that is provided by Qt. When I talk about layout management, I talk about 4 different things, and we will consider all those 4 things now. We have nested items, onshore layout, basic positioners, and Qt Quick layouts. For the first one, nested items, what it is? Actually, it's positioning items relative to its parents. So for example, here you can see 3 rectangles that are inside each other, and each child is positioned depending of his parents. So it's a kind of a way of creating a component that you can reuse on different screens, but it's really difficult to maintain and adapt if you have some dynamics part that happen or removed depending dynamically on the time. So the next one, so we will not use a lot this one, or at least we will use nested items, but not with XY positions, more with onshores that are coming just afterwards. So onshores, how it looks like? Onshores, it's a way of defining relatively each part of your UI. So for example, you are saying that one item is just on the right hand side of another with some margins. That's why on layout you are defining typically some margins, so onshores with margins, and you are defining, for example, that the top hand side or the left hand side of my item is with this margin of a right hand side of another ones. For performance wise things, you need to consider to use onshores only with their siblings or with their parents. So this is the first onshore that you can use, but it's better to use sometimes positioners directly that we will see a bit later. Just in terms of onshore, there is 2 of them that are really useful always. The first one is onshore centerings with parents, so typically, or with anything else, it's typically to onshore a child item like a text or anything. Here we can see an image that we put exactly in the middle of our screen. This is really effective when you want to put something in the middle of somewhere. The other one that we use a lot is the onshore fill. Here it applies to a mouse area to activate, for example, the click, and to be able to click on all the area of our parents. It's also really useful when you want to have an adaptive UI. Often your main component you will put as filling the whole UI to be able to display on different screen size. The next kind of layout is positioners. Positioner is the first step before the Qt Quick layout. I will say it's the basic version of Qt Quick layout. It gives you these capabilities of saying, okay, I have different items to positions, and I want, for example, and I want to display all of them with a width and a height that I know, and it will display it accordingly, putting it all in the same row or in different rows depending on the size. That is the aim of the flow one. So here we are, for example, positioning different rectangles. We are not defining where are those rectangles, we are just defining their size, and the flow will provide you directly an UI that fits directly on the size that has been provided, or that it can use actually here. So the whole rectangle. The next one is the grid. So it's to position everything in a grid. So with, for example, you are in the same kind of usage. We are defining a lot of different rectangles, and here we are defining the grid and how we want to position them. We are defining, for example, here the number of columns, and after it's able to define all the positionings. And the two last one is column and row. So it's you can define a multiple rectangle on a column and multiple on a row, and you have an example here. I think it's quite obvious about how it works. But the thing is with basic positioners is that it does not resize item or does not scale items depending on the size. So you are always displaying everything at the same size, or you need to do your scalability by yourself. So the big things and the big difference between basic positioners like column and row and the cute quick layout, so grid layout, we have row layout and column layout. Those ones, the big advantage of those one is that they automatically define the size of each items. That means that you have two important things added to the positioner that you can see here is, for example, the fill height and fill width. So typically it will fill the space that we use to be able to stretch our UI and say, okay, this item can take the full screen or not. So it's what we will using a lot in our UI to be able to get it scalable, and saying that some parts can fill the screens, some other not, and with width and height or both, depending on what we try to do. So, and you can see also that we are, for those buttons, we are defining typically nothing. So we are not defining any X, Y, or width and height. But you can define some preferred maximum and minimum width and height on those layouts to say, okay, my button can display only good with those size, so it will not expand more than this. And the other part also, there is a preferred size, so it will try to apply this size all the time. So with all of those mechanisms of layouting, now we can go back to our applications to see how we can apply them on a real example. So now we are back in Qt Creator in the designer mode, where we can typically do our UI with drag and drop and also set up properties directly on the right hand side. We have also a navigator inside all the components that we have inside our user interface here. So we can see here that I have defined a header, which is a green rectangle with a text in the middle. Okay, as we can see here, it's centering parent. We have the same thing for the footer, okay, with a text that it also already centering parent, and everything is done with some XY position at the moment. The next ones are my image here, a Sydney image, and some slider with text that I have displayed here, some components. So everything is defined with some positions in XY. Now we will create all the layoutings. So to create the layout, we will need in global a column here for this one with my sliders and my image, and one for the footer. So we'll put all those three ones inside a column layout. I will do it later because I need before to create a row for this one, that it will be composed of my image and those three sliders. And those three sliders, I will put it, as I said, directly as a column to have it in a column also. So we'll start with those one because I will say it will be the child, I will say the one that it will be inside all of the others, so it will be easier afterwards to include this one inside all others. So first ones, we click on control and I click on each one to select all of those, and we can say OK layouting and positioning in column layout. So I have positions all of them in column. Now I have my image and my column, so I will select both of them. I'll do a right click, do a layout, and I will also position those in row layout. Okay, so I have done this. The next step now is to put everything in a row, in a column. So to do this, I need to ensure that everything is in the right order, so that I have the header in first, the row layout in second, and the footer in third. And now I select those three and I create a new layout. I will create a column layout now. So I have created all of this. Now we can define, for example, for each one first the spacing that we want. So here I don't need any space on my column layout. I don't want any space between my footer and my header and the center of my screen. So there is no need here. For my header, what I need to define is just that my green rectangle is filling the width. So it's what we can define here, filling the width. And here we can see that it has been set by default, because it's in blue, the preferred width size and the height size. So for the width, actually we don't need any width because it will fill always my screen, so I will reset it. And now for the height, we will have 80 here, so I will keep it to say, okay, I would like that it's, most of the time, it's kept to this 80 pixel of size as a preferred size. We will do exactly the same for the footer, so it will fill the width, typically, and I keep the preferred height that it's in blue, but I just reset the width here. For my row layout now, the first thing that I will do, I will put a spacing here of 10, just to have some space between my image and my column of sliders. The main part of the application, and what it's important when you develop an application that you want something scalable, you need to define that there is something that will scale always depending on the size. So you know this header and footer will be quite always the same size and keep like it is. My column here will be quite the same size always, but we want this image to be able to fill in everything. So to do this, we will say, okay, fill width and fill the height, okay? So in that case, okay, we will reset the preferred size because we have no preferred size at all. And for my column layout here, what I would like is just, I would like to align in the center, in the middle, to have something centered depending on my my image on this, and maybe I can also add for example, on my row layout directly here, some right margin on the right, just to say okay, and the left to put a bit of margin here, and we can say also that we put 10 margin on the left, just to have something where we are sure that everything are not going to at the edges. So as you can see, I have refreshed my screens, and now it does not fit at all the screen size of my window that I have defined by default. This is due because my column layout now is not defined to fill in my screens. So here I have the layout things and the ensure that you are using, and I can say okay, fill in my screen now, and if I refresh now, I will get my screen like I would like. Now we are able to start the applications. So let's check how it renders. So I have my applications now. I have just an issue with this, so I need to check what happened. What happened here is because I have not defined, I will say, a minimum width for this. So you see it's going over the edge. So we will say, okay, please use a minimum width of 100. Normally, if we want to do it properly, we can get directly the size of the text. Here for the webinar, I prefer to use directly this informations. So we have our minimum width, so it will never go under this width, and it allows me to have a bit more space for everything. So let's run it again on my PC. So now I have an application that resize, and my image is always resizing properly. But the thing is, as you can see, if I go a bit too low, my application become ugly. What could be good is to say, if I can define, for example, some minimum height and width for my applications. So it's why I will try to define now. So for example, I think this is about around 500 by 600, for example. So we can say, okay, put a minimum width of 500 inside my window, and a minimum height of, actually it's 480, so I can say 480 here. So now we will start it again. So I have my application now, so I can rescale it. But now, when I arrive on the size, I can't resize this lower than this. Okay. So the last step is to deploy it on my Android devices. So let's deploy on Android again, and to see how it looks like. So I will say on the Nexus 9. So it's deploying. So you can see that my application now is in full screen on my tablet, and if I turn, for example, the tablet like this, I can decide to turn the rotation of the screen, and you can see that it fills also my screen like this. So the application, it's quite, and we can change a lot of different variables and things like this. So my applications can fit a portrait and also landscape mode. So we have deployed now our applications on Android and desktops. So what we would like to do now is to be able to deploy our application on some embedded platforms. So now we have our user interface, and we need to consider on which platform we want to deploy. The reason behind this is when you deploy on a PC has a big cost in terms of hardware. What of the advantages of the embedded platform, it can be at a lower cost than a PC or a tablet, for example. When we consider this inside the Qt environment and Qt Quick, you have two possibilities. You can deploy, we will talk about two kinds of embedded platform, microcontrollers and microprocessors. For microcontroller, you may know that we have developed Qt for MCU, that is this capability of deploying a Qt Quick applications, a QML applications, directly on microcontroller. The big advantage is the price of MCU, because it has a price under 10 euros for the microcontroller, where for MPU it's a starting point around 30 euros. But when you are considering MCUs, you need to consider first that the graphical accelerations is quite limited, so you are limited to a screen size up to 720p resolutions. The big advantage of MCU also, it's the easy setup that you have behind, because it runs directly on bare metal, so no operating system to set up, and or FreeRTOS, that's some lightweight OSs that are quite easy to define. Also, you need to consider the number of animation you put in your applications and things like this. But if your applications is quite simple on the small screens, you may consider microcontroller for your UI. But it's not this one that I would like to cover more here. There is other talk about MCU that has been covered during the Qt Virtual Summit. The one that I would like to show you or to bring you in mind is more on microprocessor. Because on microprocessor, the range is really wide for like 30 euros until several hundred of euros. So there is a lot of different MPU in the market with a lot of different GPU with 1 core, 2 core, 4 core or more. That some are able to use different screens resolutions, multiple screens capabilities and things like this. So the first one to check out is the number of screens that you have. It will give you a bit of which one you can use. We will go for one screen for the moment. And afterwards, what are the needs in terms of animations, of graphics? Is there only 2D or is there 3D? But at the end, you will have, I will say, a kind of a range of MPU. But to decide which one is the best for the best cost is what we will try to do now. The thing is if we want to try it, let's say I have done my range and I want to try 1, 2 or 3 MPUs. I have selected them. And now what I will need to do? First, I will need an operating system to put on it, because Qt on MPU platform does not support bare metal, it supports only on top of an operating system. And you have the full Qt capabilities on top of operating systems. To do so, we provide with Qt something important in terms of testing for the scalability, is typically the UI that you want to deploy. You can use what we say boot to Qt, that it's embedded operating systems made with Yocto, so it's Linux based. And what we can provide to you with boot to Qt that you can download from your Qt account is typically a full image first that you can flash on the SD card of your targets, like a Raspberry Pi, like a AMX6, 8, and a lot of those we are providing for a lot of different platforms, those ones. And our partners also that are vending all those targets also provide some boot to Qt. And the advantages of boot to Qt, it also provides you, I will say, the kit, the full kit directly to be able to deploy on those platforms. So you can you have the cross compilations, you have the compiler and debugging tools that come with it. So it's really a testing approach where we will test all those different things, and with boot to Qt you are able to do that. If for you it's a bit hard or difficult, you can consider and if you need help, you can consider to contact our professional services teams. So here you have the link to our professional services teams that can help you directly to figure out what is the best way and the best targets to deploy depending of your requirement in terms of UI. Thank you!